Welcome back, everybody, to the Fantasy Golf Bag Podcast. I'm your host, Red Kachik, and I have a special guest this evening, Mr. Brian Kirchner, to break down the round 2 of 4-Ball Fantasy's best ball format. Last week, we talked through round 1, so picks 1 through 12. I have pick 13 through 24 up today. So we'll be talking a little bit with Brian about his thoughts on some of these guys. Maybe I'm a little bit too positive on some guys, and maybe I'm knocking some guys down that probably don't deserve it. So luckily I don't have a Brooks Truther. I don't hope that I have them pretty far down in round 2. But Brian, how's it going, man?
It's going really good. I think fantasy golf and like drafting teams for the year is like so fun and so interesting. I'm in a league with a lot of content creators, and the draft was so much fun, and it's just so great to track the guys all year. So I'm looking forward to getting some more teams going.
It's an interesting format. Like my experience in the past with season long stuff has always been like one and done. And my personal experience is like after like 3 weeks, I either had a miscut or some idiot like Kevin Na withdrew on Thursday morning. Either way, I'm dead, and I just say fuck this, and I quit making picks. So 3 weeks in, I just invested $100 or $200 into a one and done, and now 3 weeks later, I have nothing to sweat. So it's just back to DFS and betting. So that's it. So it's a nicer way for me, at least, to invest some time before the season starts, and I'm not dead in the water after three weeks.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it's a lot better than one and done. One and done's very tough. And like you said, like if you just miss on a week and the guy misses the cut or you win no money, it's just very tough. And then it's really about picking one guy to win every single week. And yeah, it's hard to do, but like if you don't and you're just making like $500,000 every week, it's hard to, you need a win to really make your money back in one and done. So I really like fantasy because you could be really high on a guy and get him later in a draft, and then he has a wonderful season. All he has to do is really win once and maybe get a couple top tens, and it's looking promising.
Yeah, you pretty much have all season to try to count on something. The one and done making a pick and like it's live or die on one pick, and to me it's just so frustrating. It's like the same with, it's a little bit the same with NFL, except for like even when you put in like 5 bullets, you can't really hedge yourself early because now you're just shooting yourself in the foot. And it's the same with one and done. Like you can't just take like 5 random guys. You're trying to just load up early. Hopefully you have enough shots later. But man, the early weeks, if you're usually, for me at least, I'll fall behind, and it's so deflating. Like this he's got 3 winners in the first 3 weeks. I have a miscut, and I have a guy that finished 20th thanks to Hideki Matsuyama, and it's like, what am I doing here? So you're almost like chasing from the beginning. To me, it always drove me nuts. So I didn't play any last year. I played some in 2018 and 19, and it was just like, I need to stop. Why am I doing this? Just donating. So, it'll be fun. And I'll pull up the rankings, and you guys should be able to see it here. Let's see. There we go. So again, this is all on fantasygolfbag.com. This will be free along with the content. I got 2 articles up highlighting a couple of Korn Ferry Tour guys. Obviously, Bito is going to go in probably round 5, if not sooner. And then some of the other Korn Ferry Tour guys are just kind of last round punts. So I have that, and then a couple of the top guys I like in round 2, which we were talking about today. So real quickly, I will recap round 1 that I talked about last week. And then, Brian, if you had any feedback on these guys, like I said, I don't think you can go wrong in round 1 so much. Like there's no one that's just going to straight kill you. Like I can be really aggressive and have DJ in 5th versus like 10th, but DJ versus JT, and it's not going to be a huge difference on a draft board. At the end of the year, maybe JT has an extra win or something that adds up, but these guys aren't going to be like, they're going to be used, I should say. There's no scenario, unless DJ gets coked up for an extended period of time, that he's not your number 1 guy, most likely, out of your draft. So really quickly, I'll walk through it. I got Rom 1, Morikawa, DeChambeau, Jordan Spieth, DJ, Patrick Cantley, Justin Thomas, Xander Schauffele, Victor Hovland, Matthew Wolff, which I told Brian before the show, I'm a little bit higher on him than especially his results from last year. Just hopefully this is a nice bounce back spot. Sung J M 11th, who had a nice bump up, and then Tony Finau 12th, who is an interesting play this week for sure, but like for the hero. But man, Tony Finau last year was not Tony Finau of 2018, 2019. So we'll see how it turns out. And maybe that's a little bit of a high ranking for him. Any thoughts on those top 12 there, Brian?
No, I think the top 12 is really interesting. Like you said, you can't go wrong. Someone in the top, like, first round that I'm really high on and I think has another spectacular season would be Patrick Cantley. I just think he's too talented, and he's like, I think that he kind of got off to the wrong foot to start the season on the East Coast swing around the Masters and the Players, but then he really turned it around, and I think Cantley is at least primed for at least 2 wins. And I think a guy that had a little bit of 2 guys that had down years that I think come back in a really strong way are DJ and JT. So I like them a little bit higher. So I think my favorite 3 out of the first round that I would be targeting would be DJ, Cantley, and JT would be.
Yeah, I think right when all the drafts started, I think it was Rahm and then Cantley 2. 3, I can't remember who 3 was right off the bat. I want to say I think it was just Bryson, to be honest. But Cantley, it's an interesting dynamic between Rahm and Cantley, because like any bump you give to Rahm, you have to kind of negate from Cantley in a way. But you mentioned he started off sluggish in the beginning of the year. But like if you take the Memorial win away from Cantley, give him a second or a third, it bumps him down and bumps Rahm even further. So that obviously we're going to say Rahm's probably number 1, clear cut for the most part. Just been so consistent. But yeah, I could see Patrick Cantley in the top 3 for sure. All right. You have a take on Wolf?
No, I think Wolf really came into his own this swing season, and I really hope that he can come along and do it again, because you know, a guy like Matthew Wolff, it doesn't really matter the type of event. He's just that talented and so good off the tee that, you know, he's contended in very difficult conditions at the U.S. Open. And he's also a huge birdie maker. So I like guys that can kind of go both ways, play well in majors where there's more money, and also play well in these birdie fests. So I do think Matthew Wolff gets a win in 2022. I think that is very realistic. And I think that he had a lot of close calls. And I do think that Wolff gets a win in 2022. I'm not sure which event, but I think he'll be there.
If he plays anything like he did this fall, it should be a great year. I mean, that swing between, I think it was the Masters, he had a WD or he got DQ'd, and then he had another withdrawal somewhere else, and then even through the summer he had a couple missed cuts and like another WD. I mean, it was a weird year, so I don't know what was going on with Matthew Wolff. And you could see, I mean, he only made $500K last year. I mean, it's nuts.
That's not a lot at all.
I mean, I'm sure we'll take it, but compared to some of these guys around him, I mean, Xander have 1 win at the Olympics, which doesn't even count for the money list, and he had 3 million. I mean, it's a huge difference. So yeah, I think last year, hopefully, I'm going to take him in round 1 if I can get him in around 10th or 11th, and hopefully he has a big year. And last year was a fluke. So yeah, I'm going to stick with Sungjae in round 1 unless you have a take there, and then we can lead off with Sam Burns here, number 15.
Sungjae is he's the Iron Man. He plays every tournament.
Plays too much, man.
I'm worried that maybe he got his 1 win in the fall at the Shriners. I don't know if he'll win again, but he's a guy, again, I'm very high on for the 2022
He just
season.
plays too much to think like his odds. I mean, even if his odds are like 3% to win a tournament, you're going to play 25 events a year. That's still pretty, like, I got to count on the 25 events versus, you know, Brooks at 15.
Yeah, no, Sungjae, he's going to play. He's going to make a lot of cuts. He's too talented. And he's just an excellent player. And when he gets hot and he just fires like a minus 25 for a tournament, he's a hard man to beat. And he's definitely going to win you a lot of money.
Yeah, it's nuts. All right. So let's lead off. So again, round 1 is 1 through 12. So it's 12 players making 12 picks. Starting with Sam Burns. So I got Sam Burns, number 13. I think as good as his fall swing was, it made a case for him to bump into round 1, but I got him right on the outside edge. I mean, I got his data golf card pulled up here. And I think it's interesting to talk about how, you know, the last couple of events where he's priced at like 11K on DraftKings, it's not really a shocker. For some reason last year, I don't recall him being as consistent as he was. Like, if you look through just 2021 here late in the season, T13, T18, T2, and then obviously going into the FedEx Cup playoffs, T21, T8, and a T18 in the small field here. But his stats line up really well. And for some reason, I don't know if it was just the stretch around the players right here. with 3 missed cuts, it doesn't really make sense that I thought less of him than like a round 2 pick. But looking through everything that he's done so far this fall, kind of the same breadth of Matthew Wolff, a win, T14, T5, T7, gaining obscene amount of strokes on approach. Off the tee is going to be a strong suit for him no matter what. And man, like if he's a top 10 machine, I would happily take him early in round 2. And then maybe in round 1. I don't know. Depends on how much Matthew Wolff I have in about 2 weeks. But any thoughts on Sam Burns?
Honestly, like maybe the fact that I've wagered a lot of money on Sam Burns to win the Hero this week, and I'm just very high on him in particular. Like I think he is probably the person I am highest on and think is going to have the best season. And, he had a breakout season last year with the win at the Valspar, knocked it out with the second the next week. And then he lipped out. It's like he really could have had like 3 or 4 wins, like really last year. And he only had 1. He is just an animal and he knows how to win now. He is so good. He is so consistent. He's played so unbelievable this fall swing. I see no way that it doesn't carry over into the 2022 season. So I think he wins at least one time. Definitely. No question about it. And then the only concern with him would be that he hasn't shown up in majors, which again has a higher purse. So I don't know what it is when he plays in majors, difficult conditions, but there's enough PGA Tour events that are just birdie fest and are on Bermuda he's just an automatic play. So I think there's a strong case for him to be in the first round, and I think definitely first pick of the second round is definitely makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. I think it was 2019. I just pulled it up, 2020. If you look through the COVID year for him, this was a pretty ugly stretch of golf for him. So this is probably between, I don't know for you, man, for COVID, between me and everything else going on, like 2020 to 2021 is just like one long year. So like I get a lot of the 2020 stuff mixed up. But yeah, he had a lot of miscuts in 2020. And then last year, he really flipped the switch to what people thought he was going to be. I mean, that was phenomenal. Win at the Valspar, which talking about majors, Valspar is kind of on the major difficulty level. It's not a very long golf course, but as far as like score to par, it's one of the tougher courses on the year for sure. And it's closer to a major championship, we'll say like a PGA or maybe a US Open on an easy year. But it's a weird guy. It's a weird guy where he can obviously bomb it and go low on long, easy golf courses. And then a course like Valspar, which you don't necessarily picture a longer guy, a guy like him doing well, being able to navigate it pretty well. So I think he's got a full bag. And if he can continue, like I said, this fall, maybe I'm weighing too much of the fall swing, but like the Wolff scenario really opened my eyes because that first week back, we haven't seen him in 2 months. And he showed a little bit of signs. And the next week showed more signs of the same thing. And you kind of got to just go with the flow. Yeah. And Sam Burns is in that category, I think, right now.
Yeah, and he's winning this week at the Hero. Like, no question.
And he's winning this week at the Hero. There
like,
you go.
I have no doubt. It's on Bermuda. It's birdie fest. Like, he's playing so well this swing season. Like, I just have no doubt in my mind he is winning. I'm going to bet more on it right now.
I like it. You could probably just leave like 2,500 on the table going down to him. Was he like 77, 76, something like that?
Yeah, he's like 70. He's going to be the most owned guy. But like at the end of the day, like he's going to win. So like you're going to need him in your DFS lineup. So, I mean, I really have no doubt about it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if he's 99% owned, you just got to go 100.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go down to Brooks. And then we'll skip down a couple guys. I don't really want to talk about Boring Answer and Cameron Smith unless you have a strong take. But Brooks is an interesting one. A guy that I keep just like when I first went through my rankings, a lot of name value pops up. Obviously, going through even round 3, you'll see guys like Rory's down here at the end of round 2, Webb Simpson at the end of round 2. You got Neiman, Oosthuizen, Homa, Leishman, Adam Scott. So guys that on a weekly basis are going to be over 9K. But when it comes to a guy for the full season, even Brooks has a lot of name value. And when I start digging in a little bit more, and I think even, Joe, Tour Picks on Twitter posted the thing about his top 10 rate at like 35%. But what's interesting is Brooks also has a miscut rate of like 22 or 23%. Yeah. And that's kind of my big red flag. So I have him in round 2. So he's 14th right now. But you can look through even just last year, played 20 events, decent top 10 rate, eight top 10s, 3 top 2s, 6 missed cuts and a withdrawal. So you say seven missed cuts basically out of 20 events. That's not very good. To one guy, which I'll get to shortly, in contrarian view, I guess, Billy Horschel played 25 events with only 3 missed cuts, which to me is amazing. And we'll look up his data golf card in a second too. But you wouldn't think about Billy Horschel versus Brooks Koepka in a season-long thing, but from a moneyless standpoint, it's kind of eye-opening. But yeah, I think Brooks, again, when you look through upside in a round 1 or round 2 pick, Brooks has the upside. Obviously, I don't know what his deal is with normal events, non-majors. I don't know if he wants to decide this year he's a grinder versus last year doesn't care in a normal event, and he somehow steps up and beats Bryson in an exhibition match, and maybe he carries that forward this week, or I'm sorry, into the season. But Brooks in round 2 is about as high as I could possibly rank him, and it sounds sad, and I'm sure Skyhook will be upset with me, but that's kind of where I stand. I could be easily convinced to move him down my board versus moving him up into round 1.
Brooks is really one of the golfers I probably have the strongest opinions on, and because just the way he is, he's not a normal PGA Tour player. But my thing about Brooks is that this swing season has been playing a decent amount, and I'm kind of just in this mindset of just literally play Brooks at no cost. Do not play him, bet him to miss the cut, because he just his specialty is just not swing season, resort course, birdie fest. Now, I want nothing to do with him in the swing season and some of these easier events, but once we get into April and once we get into May and once we get into the major season, that's when he really kicks his game up and really contends. And I'm telling you, my biggest wagers of the year are Brooks top 10 at majors, because he just does it every single year. When the course is difficult, when the best players in the world are there, he just shows up and plays well. And another thing that I found with Brooks is that even the events leading up to majors, he tends to play well. In T4 at the Farmer, at the Travelers last year, a week after the U.S. Open. If the Travelers was held in January, I guarantee you Brooks would not come in 4th place. I legitimately guarantee there's no way. So I think that he is a good pick because he will top 5 and top 10 in every single major and make you a lot of money. But at the same time, I worry about him in January. Granted, he did win the Waste Management last year, but I think that was a little bit of fluky. But Brooks, he's kind of due for a major. Hasn't won since Bethpage of 2019. He's always in it. I think he's a little bit different, a golfer after that major. He just hasn't really had it Sunday in these majors. But look, if you want an automatic top 5 at the PGA, I don't love him at the Masters, but I think U.S. Open, PGA, Open Championship, Brooks is just an automatic play. And I think for those reasons, he definitely deserves to be in the second round because he just shows up in majors when it counts. In these other events, it's hard to tell, but I think he's definitely a good second round play.
Yeah, I guess from a perspective, he gets, just say he wins a PGA or US Open and finishes top 5 in 2 other majors. I mean, you're looking at 2.5, 3 million almost off of those 3 finishes, which is pretty nuts. But the purses have just gone through the roof in the last 4 years. Where was it? The Players is $1.8 million the first, something ridiculous. So yeah, I could definitely see it. It's just, it was an interesting tidbit on how, I mean, and I think it goes to your point on the normal events, he just doesn't give a shit. And I don't know if it's just he's a self-fulfilling prophecy that he missed a cut in a non-major, and he's well, I just don't care about these. And now every single time he tees it up, he doesn't care or doesn't act like he cares. But it just, to me, that really pains me to take him too soon, certainly in round 1, and you're basically just counting on him in 4 events, which he could pay it off for sure. But it's very tough to get behind, like you said. In all the other events, you just kind of fade him. People are going to play him. He's going to be 20% owned most of the time, 15, 20% owned. And just play him in the majors and eat the chalk. If you just happens to be chalk.
If you just scroll down a little bit, you see he had that run. He got T4, T4 at the Open, then the Travelers, the Open's coming up. So top that, and then he literally hasn't done it, like did nothing since. BMW T22, there's 30 people in the field. It's like, I mean, it just, it's he tends to play well from April to July, but it's hard to get much more from him around those times. So that's kind of my Brooks take, but definitely not in the swing season. I don't like him, but
for sure,
I don't know. We'll see. And he also said like he'll see me in April. He probably defends at Waste Management, but I don't know how many other tournaments he's going to play. So that's another thing you have to consider is the sheer amount of tournaments and events that he's going to be able to play.
Yeah, because he had a little bit of an injury last year. Can't remember how severe it was, but with his knee, he missed some type of events, some number of events. But even like back in 2020, to your point on the leading into the PGA Championship, WGC finished second, and I think that just shot his ownership up a ton for the PGA. But it looks like he actually gives a little bit of effort in some type of preparing for the week before a major.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like it. So the next couple of guys I'll just kind of list off, and if you have a strong take or want to talk about any of these guys, they're just very consistent. I don't know. Talking about upside would just be winning 2+ events. So talking about an answer, a Cameron Smith, I don't see a ton of upside in that. I think they play a lot of events. I think they finish a lot of top 10s. Cameron Smith played unreal last year. I'm not 100% sure he can follow as well as he played last year, but Answer plays a lot of events, very consistent. I think Scheffler is a guy that's kind of sneaky, though. I think he has the upside. He's the number of finishes he had last year in the majors. I think he was the only guy with all 4 top 10s. Yeah. Or what did he finish in the?
I think he had like one of the lowest scores to par.
Lowest scores to par.
The majors, but he top 10 at the US PGA
and the Masters. I thought
Masters. I think it was just a T20, but still, regardless, like. Scotty is someone that I think very highly of in majors because he's a very consistent top 10. My worry about him, and it's like we saw it, a few weeks ago at the Houston Open. It's like I really like Scotty in more difficult conditions when pars are more at a premium versus birdies because he's very consistent and he doesn't like. I don't really see Scotty winning an event at -20, but a hard WGC or it would be tough for him to get his first win at a major, but it almost just seems like that's kind of where I see him actually getting it done would be a major for me. But he's an excellent player. He's very consistent and, his major record is very impressive. I wish everyone's going to be waiting for this win, but, I just not sure exactly when it is going to come.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it comes sooner than later, and it kind of opens the floodgates for him. He's a wild guy on a week-to-week basis. From a DFS perspective, I'm sure you know this too. People will pick and choose a lot of this, not pick and choose statistics, but they'll definitely select guys that shine or they bust in certain categories. And a lot of Scheffler's stats are looking good and off the tee, and approaches the ones that kind of go up and down. And I think from a longer term perspective, though, a lot of that stuff kind of negates it, but it's really difficult on a week-to-week basis to look at Scheffler at 10-2 or something and think, yeah, I'm going to play this guy that lost, 4 strokes on approach the last 3 weeks. And then he finished in the top 10 every week. It's like, he's amazing on the finishes. And that's really what I'm kind of targeting here. But it's an interesting guy that, statistically, he's not going to be the sharpest. He's not going to be the guy that pops off a page every week. But his finishes are going to be there. He's always going to be at the top of the odds board. He's just a good player. It's just a kind of fact of the matter, I guess.
I think that his odds going forward is going to be really just interesting to me because it's like he just doesn't seem like, and this is like it's judgmental and it's early in his career, but like he just doesn't really seem to like have it on Sundays when he's in contention. Like he doesn't put his foot down and just like make every single 6-footer in front of him. And like that's what you need to do to win tournaments. It's not just going to be handed to you. You're going to have to go out there on Sunday. Like I think a perfect a perfect like example of Scotty is like he'll go out and shoot the course record on Friday and then just like gag every single 3-footer on Sunday. It's just like typical Scotty. And like I want him to win, I really do, but I think betting him at under 20-1 just like isn't something like I'm interested in.
That's a good point. Yeah, for sure. And a lot of his odds have been sub 25.
Yeah, and I'm curious. Like I think I'll probably bet him in every not the Masters, but I think I'll bet him PGA, U.S. Open Championship this year, like most definitely, because hopefully we could get like a 35 to him on or 30 on him, because that's the number I'm more comfortable betting him around, I would say.
He's got some of the best footwork in the game too, by the way.
Yeah, no, the right foot that like hops off every single time is good.
Yeah. If you watched him on the range and didn't know he was good at golf, you'd just be like, God, this guy needs to give it up.
Yeah. No, I agree. He doesn't look like he has a normal swing.
No, it looks way out of balance. But yeah, so last year, 29 events he played. 29 events for the full season. So that includes the fall swing. 16 top 25s. 24 of 29 made cuts, 5 missed cuts. That's pretty good. Just elusive win. No win.
Yeah.
All righty. I'll list off the next couple guys, and then I'll just finish off the guys that I want to talk about at the end of round 2 for me. Which, again, some of these guys could be even higher up. We want to talk Mr. Corey Connors, who doesn't seem to ever look like he won't finish in the top 5 any event he tees it up because he gains too many strokes on every category. But Daniel Berger, who is a fan favorite of Fantasy Golf Bag, I struggle a bit if he's not going to play that many events, because I don't think Daniel Berger's as much of a winner as I think we all hope. I think he's definitely above average for a tour player, but he doesn't play enough events and he doesn't have enough of the, elite upside. Like he's not going to just go off and win 2 or 3 events in a season. So this may need to be bumped down. So I don't know if you have a take on Daniel Berger. And the next 3 here, you can see Hideki, Matsuyama, Patrick Reed. So I'll kind of group these 3 if you kind of want to lay out maybe your thoughts on these 3 here.
Yeah, no, I think it's really interesting because Reed, Decky, and Billy all had 1 win, and they're all around the same money with Corey Connors. So I would take a guy like Corey because he made just as much money and them without a win last year. And so I like that upside because I do think Corey Connors is due for a win in the 2022 season. He's not, again, maybe not the best guy on Sunday to like get it done for you. He's not the best Sunday player, good first round leader guy. Like I'm sure he could go really low, but I'm really more looking for guys that have made, they're around that 3 million mark without a win, because, you get like 1.2 for a win, depending on the event. And it just, but then it's like, well, then would you rather just bet a guy that has, win equity like Reed, like Hideki, like Billy, and, they might miss a bunch of cuts for you, and they might, have a bunch of T30 finishes, and they might not be as consistent, but they have the win equity to get it done 1 week.
Well, that's the thing too. Yeah. I mean, like if they're upside, Hideki's interesting because he's like very hot or cold, even in the same week. I mean, he'll open with like a 64, and then all of a sudden he's not even in like the top 40 on Sunday. But like there's some guys that are very, very consistent cut makers. Like we talk about Billy Horschel. He doesn't win a ton. Like 1 win a season is fantastic for him. And then there's guys like we just talked about, Brooks and Patrick Reed is going to be in the same category. Every week they tee it up. They're in a small category of guys that are probably favorites to win, but they're almost as likely to miss the cut in a certain aspect. Like it's very, very up and down. And I guess to that point, the upside for picking a winner out of like a Patrick Reed over a Corey Connors over a Daniel Berger, there's a lot of equity, I guess, built into that. If even if he misses 5 cuts in the first like 4 months, he's probably going to bake a win in some random event. He just happens to show up. And plus he cheats. So that's also a very positive thing. Yeah,
I think that's a good. Wait, so where is Rory on this?
Rory is 23rd. Okay. And this was a lot off of last season, which he sucked. Yes. I mean, he was awful.
But he got a win.
He did. And he's played better over there in Europe for the going into Abu Dhabi and stuff.
Rory is like really interesting to me because I feel like every single year we're like this is it, like this is the year we see like prime Rory when he hasn't won a major in 7 years. Like it's just really unbelievable if you really think about it. And like I feel like he always kind of gets this like spark. He plays a few good events. It's like Rory's back. Like he's just gonna win every single major. It's like, is he though? Like I really don't know if he's going to. I mean, one fault would be that he, Wells Fargo is not at what's the course called? Whatever course that is. Yeah, Quail Hollow, because it's for the President's Cup. It's so but again, for whatever reason, Rory on Fazio Designs, where he just bombs it 320 straight. It's just like he's a hard man to beat on Fazio. And I think that there's going to be a lot of events that set up really well for him. And, he's a great major player. So I think he's someone I think I'm a little bit higher on to start the 2022 season. And I hope he wins a major, but, I think we'll have to see. But it's been a long time coming for him.
I made that comment it might have been like 2 weeks ago. Cause like McIlroy, I remember when, I think he qualified for like the British Open when he was like 18 or 16 in 2007 or something. He was like leading or co-leading after round one. And like he was a phenom out of Ireland. And then he goes off on the PGA Tour and blitzed the field in 2011. He wins another major in 2012 or two more majors in 2012. And you think like, this is just a kid that's going to win one every year. And he's become very consistent. And statistically, I mean, he's going to pop every single week. He just has not become. He's one of those. So basically, I came to. There's certain players that are kind of overachievers and underachievers. So like I keep kind of talking about Billy subliminally, but Billy's like an overachiever in my opinion. He's a guy that just doesn't belong in the echelon that he has been in for the last couple of years. And Rory should be in an echelon above where he has been. And he's just he's still Rory, but he's more mediocre than Rory, if that makes sense. He's definitely been an underperformer in my mind from 2011, 2012, where we thought he was going to be kind of Tiger-esque because Tiger was out of the game at that point. We thought he was Tiger, basically. Yeah. So I was going back to his 2018 card because I was looking through his stats. I had it pulled up here last year. It wasn't awful. I mean, I think on a week-to-week basis, we get nitpicky between stats and like finishes because he just didn't have – when you start playing a guy that's 10K – and he doesn't finish in the top 10, you immediately just think he sucks. And like overall, he played really consistent for the most part. Just the finishes weren't good. Putting wasn't very good for the whole year. Just wasn't good. A couple top 10s, that's it. But like looking back to say 2019, I mean that's the Rory that you want to see. 3 wins, gaining 2 strokes on approach in some of these events. I mean, it's ridiculous. Almost 2 strokes off the tee, which some people probably wouldn't believe that he would gain more strokes on approach, but it's like that's every single time he teed up. T4, T5, T4, 2, second or sixth, win, T8, T8, win, T9, T4, T8. I mean, that's ridiculous. Yeah, that was only 2 years ago. I mean, we thought so highly.
And like that's why maybe the case it's like maybe last year was a little bit of an off year for Rory, and with COVID and stuff. And I think he comes back, and I think he really does have a pretty that's a lot of money. And I think like no one would be surprised like if he did that this year.
Exactly.
So I think he should be a little bit higher, and I think that he probably I think people would draft him in the first round just because he's Rory McIlroy. So I don't know. I think that the fact that last year just law of averages was a little bit of a down year for him. I think that he, gets maybe 2 wins this year. And I'm sure his numbers, I guarantee, like again, like you're saying this week with the hero, like he hasn't even done anything. Like he won the CJ Cup, whatever, and then like he played well in the DP World Tour, but like he hasn't even done anything. It's like Rory 7-1. It's just like I feel like that's going to be a trend this year where Rory is not really going to be at bettable odds for a lot of events, regardless of his play.
Well, the books are scared of Rory. Yeah, I think they've been burned by a few of his runaway wins when he was like 30-1 somehow. In 2011, 2015. But I honestly, looking back at it now, I mean, you make a good point. He probably should be going earlier than what he is. And to the same point, he probably went way early going into last season. Now going back late second round, you could bump him up ahead of Cameron Smith, Abraham Answer, and I wouldn't hate it. That's probably where he belongs for what type of year he could have.
Yeah, no, I agree.
No, I like it. I honestly, some of these guys, man, there's so much hindsight. Well, not hindsight. There's so much of, immediate past results of the last season that you can't really see past it. That's why like the fall swing is kind of like an artificial, like light at the end of the tunnel. Like I see Matthew Wolf pop a little bit. Sam Burns obviously has been playing well, but he has another great fall. And all of a sudden now I have this idea that they're really going to have a great next 8-10 months when it was only 2 months of golf really and four events. So like, yeah, Rory, I like, if we look back longer term, the upside for Rory is like a top 5 guy out of everybody, to be honest. So the one last guy I want to talk about, we kind of skipped over Corey Connors. I think he's kind of in that Sungjae category. He plays so many events. He's very consistent. I mean, honestly, every time he plays it, how many times has he actually finished outside the top 10? Or I should say like the top 15, because Corey Connors, I feel like every time he's even chalk, he still comes through.
Yeah. Like anytime like it's approach play heavy, it's just like everyone's going to play Corey Connors because he's just that good.
Yeah. So a little bit of hyperbole, T20, T17, a lot of T20s. If he could just putt, maybe he would do better than being a top 20 guy. So yeah, I think he's probably right in line with where he should be late in round 2.
And he's winning the Masters this year, I would say. I'd say Corey Connors wins the Masters in April. I like that prediction. That seems to be the course he plays best at. So I think Corey Connors gets major. I bet him at like 70-1. I got a good number on him. So I drafted Corey in my fantasy league with my friends. So I'm pretty high on Corey. I'm thinking that he's going to have a wonderful season.
I think so too. All right, the last guy, like I said, there's a lot of guys in round 3 that easily could sneak up depending on your exposure to some of these earlier guys. Billy Horschel is the one that I wanted to highlight really quick. And then I got one special one for you that's way down the board, but I want to get your take on it because he's not at the forefront of many people's minds for next season, but I think he might be an interesting early grab for some people. So Billy Horschel, like I said, 25 events played last year, 22 made cuts, 3 missed cuts. I mean, it's unreal the number of events he played, made $4 million. You go back to the year before, well, we should probably skip COVID, still did pretty good. 22 events, missed 5 cuts. 2019, 26 events, missed 2 cuts. 2018, 27 events, 8 missed cuts, 2 WDs. Don't know what went on there, but he had a lot of top 3s. He had the win. Was that his FedEx Cup year? 2018, 2017, might have been 2018. So I think Billy Horschel's in the category if he plays so much. Win equity isn't really that far off, to be honest. Like I would expect him to win once a year. 2 is a stretch. If he doesn't win once, I think that's probably like, he probably finished in the top 3 a few extra times. But I think a win for Billy every year is pretty good. The big issue for him is just statistically, he's so up and down throughout the year. He'll gain strokes on approach. He'll be losing a bunch of strokes on approach. Off the tee is not terrible, but he's so up and down. A lot of made cuts, like I said, but it's either win or bust in a certain sense. So I like him from an aspect that he plays a lot of events. He's going to make a lot of cuts. He'd be the kind of guy that I would play early and one and done. And, he would make the cut and finish 60th. And I feel like I'm $2 million behind already. So
but my concern about Billy is he's kind of turning into a Euro guy.
I don't know.
He is. He's gone on record saying he likes the European tour. He
doesn't even know where UK is in
the
UK.
Billy is turning into a low-key Euro tour, DP World Tour guy. In my opinion, I think we see him a lot in the European tour this upcoming year. He's a big West Ham guy. So my concern would be that, he takes a little bit off less in America and he's just going to be over the pond a lot.
Man, I mean, I could see him playing a few extra events when he gets – because like some of these guys – I mean, I wouldn't say Colin Morikawa's a Euro guy, but when you're leading that race to Dubai, it kind of makes sense to go play a couple events. I feel like that's kind of in his wheelhouse when he plays all the WGCs because they get points for all that stuff.
Yeah.
2020 was COVID, so we'll kind of skip that out. Yeah, I mean, maybe he's trending that direction, but I have to imagine if the price or the purse is there, same with Morikawa, just go. I mean, it's the fall swing anyways. They kind of timed it right, but we'll see with the DP stuff and the other stuff with the Abu Dhabi guys, whatever else is going on over there. But yeah, I could see a little bit of risk, I guess, with the money that's being flashed in front of them. All right, you ready for the last guy I want to bring up?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go way down the board for you. I'm just gonna do I found him. Can you pick him out on the screen?
I would say Ricky.
Yeah. Ricky's going late. Ricky's going later than 64.
No, Ricky in our league, he was like he was like 8th rounder, and my friend Andy was just like, I'm just gonna take him the upside over the rest of the guys around him because like he could, and like he had some good events over the swing season, and maybe that's a little bit of a preview about what's to come. I think that everyone in the golf space would be extremely happy if Ricky could get another win. But I agree that just the upside for the amount of people he's around, like it just definitely makes a lot more sense to go with him versus a guy like Patton Kizzire or like Griot.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think the drafts I've been in, I think he's made it till close to round 10, to be honest.
Wow.
And even then he's like down the board and like you see his name and just, you kind of want to just click it. Like, there's still some name value that has a little bit of an impact in this range here. So I thought that one was interesting. Outside of that, I think it's pretty straightforward. Any final thoughts from you? It sounds like you're pretty much on the same wavelength for the upside with some of these guys. Like looking for the wins.
I agree. I think that it's kind of tough to. I mean, like, what are you really looking for? You're really looking for 2 wins. Like, if someone gets 2 wins, like, you couldn't be more happy. But like, even if someone doesn't get a win, but they have a bunch of top 10s and they make 3-4 million, like, I think it's just a good pick. So I think it's just a matter of like, if you want to like shoot for a guy with high win equity that might miss a lot of cuts, or a guy that's going to make a lot of cuts, maybe not get you a win, but a lot of top 10s. And it's just about how you want to kind of make your money because it might come out the same.
I think so. Like the first 2 rounds for sure. It's a little bit tougher once you get past like round 5 or 6. Like last year, Stuart Sink went in round 12 and he was a top 25 guy on tour. He was like top 15 into the tour championship. And then he finished DFL, I think. But like, who would have picked Stuart Sink? Like, I think he would have just auto-picked him last. Like, he just happened to show up on the board. But there's plenty of guys that just have been, like I said, like Ricky Fowler's in that category. If he won twice next year, you wouldn't really be that surprised. Like, off of last year, you would be surprised, but you wouldn't be like, you would be more pissed that you didn't play Ricky Fowler late than him winning. So
I think a lot of guys at the end, you just take them over the upside and that they might just have a breakout year like Spieth or something. And I think that could really be a beneficial strategy.
All right. I like it. Well, Brian, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for joining me tonight to talk about round 2. It was a good discussion. Good luck to Sam Burns this week.
Yes. Need a win. I'm going to bet more on it right now. But yeah, there's really no way Sam Burns doesn't win this week at the Hero.
He'll at least finish in the top 20, which is good.
Yeah, no, auto top 20. Everyone's because top 20s are like kind of my favorite bet. And like, I mean, just bet the whole board. Top 20 this week. It's tough. Like, if I can't bet top 20s, it's like a weird event for me.
That's true.
So it'll be weird, but I have enough money at Exposed this week.
I'll add some Sam Burns exposure so I can have something to root for alongside you. So I appreciate it, man. And best of luck this week at the Hero World Championship or the World Tour. No, Hero
World Challenge.
Challenge. It's a fucking challenge. 20-man field challenge. All right.
Yes.
Appreciate it, Brian. We'll see you later.
Of course.